Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here on a hot take, and this is really a hot take. Uh, uh, it's more of an addendum to what Tim Pool said in this video. Hatred for Trump has driven Democrats insane. Now unhinged leftists support war and rioting. Great video. I will link it in the description since I'm talking about it specifically. But I always watch Tim Pool. I often ride his coattails on some of the stuff he reports. I get a lot of my news from Tim Pool. Honorary Piney, Tim Pool. Bravo, my friend. But I just wanted to add my 2 cents on some of the stuff he said. So you might want to watch his video first. But here we go. So he talks about Bill Maher in this article on Fox News. Bill Maher knocks media's defense of looting and rioting. I'm not down with that. And, a lot of people, not just him, say, Bill Maher, he's sort of the last sane liberal. He's trying to tell the liberal party, or the Democrats to stop shooting themselves in the foot. Oh, sorry, John, I forgot to give you this treat. Here you go, but here you go, buddy. Here you go. Yum, yum. They're little hamburgers. They're pretty cool. So, and he gets... Tim gets pretty hyped up in this video, so it's pretty fun to watch. If you never watched him, he's very excitable in this one. But I wanted to add my perspective as a guy who sort of worked in the industry, and specifically I worked for Bill Maher's show, Politically Incorrect, which was the show he had before. But it was very similar in nature. And a lot of people, and not just Tim, say, well, Bill Maher said... I'm not down with that. Like, you people are crazy. He's trying to warn the Democrats. He's sort of the last sane guy and all this stuff. That's possible, but I would like to give you my perspective in that the thing about television, the thing about entertainment, it's all an orchestration. All of it. From top to bottom. Everything's fake. That doesn't mean Bill Maher is lying about his opinions, but it doesn't mean he's telling the truth either. And I'm not here to denigrate my old boss either. I like him. I think he's a pretty entertaining guy. And, he helped me out. But you have to understand, performers perform. And what Bill has been doing for, is it 25 years yet? It's getting close. It's getting close to that. He's hosted a show, either like Real Time or Politically Incorrect, where he has a panel of guests and he argues with them. And how he gets ratings is he says something pretty outrageous. Back in the day, when he was talking about Serbia, the Serbia-Kosovo conflict under Clinton. Speaking of conflict, are you not going to eat your hamburger? Did you eat it already? Wow, you're hungry. Here, come here. Why don't you come over here? You gotta bark. So when he was talking about this Serbian-Kosovo conflict, Maher was quoted as saying, he was very pro-war about that conflict. He said something like, I want to see them crush Serb skulls. Because I think, like a lot of entertainers, he trusted that other people in the entertainment world who report the news are telling him the truth, or near enough that he can make jokes about it. And I believe that his writers are pretty similar, because when you hire writers, you tend to hire guys like you. And it's not just Bill doing the deciding, although he has a huge influence in that area, but it's his producers too. I'm sure Bill's producers, or his manager, they're all heavily involved in the show and make sure he gets what he wants. As he moved up the ladder, Bill became more and more important because he became the face of everything. In the beginning, he wouldn't have as much latitude. Now he's a huge name in this sort of entertainment. I don't know what you would call it. It's not really comedy. Not pure comedy, I should say. I'm not knocking his comedy. I think his comedy's good for what it is. And in fact, Bill's one of the few guys who does this kind of stuff who hasn't lost a step. I think it's destroyed Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert. I think their comedy's been absolutely obliterated. But he's pretty much the same he was back in the 90s. He makes snarky comments, and sometimes he'll make a joke that's pretty killer. But it's sort of hit or miss. He's always been sort of at the same level in terms of his comedy. He's been consistent. I'll say that. He's been very consistent. He never really goes down, and he never really goes, to to the heights of comedic ha ha ha. But, his brand isn't about that. It's more about, commentating on the news. Commentary on the news. So what I'm saying here is Bill Maher could, yes, believe every word he says and is being totally 100% truthful. It could, however, be an act. Because just as when he said, I want to see Serb skulls crushed, and that was an outrageous statement at the time, and he said other things that are pretty outrageous, he may merely be saying, I'm not down with the rioting because everybody else in the media is. He may be taking the contrary position simply because he perceives it as, ooh, this will get me some attention from these guys. Now they'll all be talking about me. Well, Bill, come on. Rioting, it's the voice of the unheard, Bill. Everybody here agrees. Why are you the holdout? And that's his shtick. Or he may actually feel that way. He may feel partly that way. And it's just sort of heightening it in order to get, some mileage out of it for a bit, for the show. At the end of the day, if you're a performer, it's about the show. It's where he makes his money. He wants the show to last another year. And another year. And another year. Because every year it lasts, the more money he makes. And the more he doesn't have to go back on the road or meet with producers and find another, production company that wants to produce yet another show just like this one on a different station. Someday, HBO will decide, real time, I guess we're done with that. And the show will end. And where will Bill go? He will move on probably to the exact same kind of show on another network. It'll probably be, aimed at an older audience because he's getting older. And, so maybe CBS, because that's often considered like the network for old people. So it's not so cut and dry as Bill Maher is holding the line. It may just be that the whole thing's an act, Tim. And behind the stage, it's just like, yeah, okay, see you guys tomorrow. And no one's even talking to each other, and they're all in 100% agreement. Because I would wager, I don't know this, I wasn't in the writer's room, but I would wager that most of the writers and producers on his show are pretty liberal. I mean, like Colbert's producers were really totally in for the DNC. The WikiLeaks cables proved it. They were emailing the Clinton campaign. Oh, what can we do for you? And, it's pretty obvious that that's the case. They're in for the DNC. Now, do they believe it? The entertainment world, it doesn't even matter anymore whether you believe it or not. If you don't have the right politics, you don't get work. This has been going on not since Trump. This goes back probably to the 80s. When John Wayne died, he was like the last holdout, the last sort of Republican movie star. What did he die? Like 87, I think. Everybody in the entertainment business is a liberal. Now, back in the 80s, that was still cool. There were still a lot of religious nutbags and, you still didn't have gay marriage, but they achieved a bit of a balance in the 90s. And Clinton was president, and that's when everything started to go off the rails because there's not a fight left for the liberals' cause anymore. They're still fighting those squares at the church who tell them how to dress and to cut their hair. They're still fighting it. All those people are dead. The parents from Footloose are dead. And, as to why the Democrats have gone insane, I don't think it has much to do with Trump as it has more to do with they've reached the end of the road. There's nothing left to fight for. They're fighting for these marginalized groups because that's what they've done for 50 years. They fought for the marginalized. But now the marginalized are the communists. Gay people, trans people, they're all in. They're not being oppressed. Normal people know they're not being oppressed. It's these idiots on Twitter. It's the communists and the Antifa and the people who have blown this up into a drama that these people are all caught up in. And NPR, I believe you mentioned to NPR in the video, and I laughed because, my God, NPR's been doing this since they've been in existence. They have, I don't think anyone on NPR can exist outside the bubble, much less see out of it. I don't think there's ever been conservatives at NPR, have there? A lot of this, oh, you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're a fascist BS, that's always been the subtext with these people. Always. Back in the day, oh yeah, the religious right, well, we all know they're a bunch of racists, right? And that wasn't true then. There were racists, sure, and if you had to bet on the political leanings of a racist back in the day, 90% of the time they were on the right. That's just not the case anymore. And these people can't admit it. Because if they admit it, then they have to acknowledge the racism on their own side, and they have to kick out a bunch of people on their own side. And they can't afford to lose a single voter anymore. They are clinging to the last remnants of their party. They are imploding. And they have sealed them off and compartmentalized the remaining members of their party via the media because they have no choice. If they lose these people, they're done. If they lose this election, the Democratic Party is done. There's not going to be a Democratic Party if they lose. And I think they know it. They're going to be in the weeds for the next 10, 20 years unless the Republicans drive themselves off a cliff, which, that's pretty likely. And then they'll be back in power under some other pretense to tamp down the excesses of the right. But that's way in the future. It's not going to be the Trump party forever. The moment Trump leaves, these neocons will push back. And the Republicans will fall into their old ways. And it's not that the Democratic Party now doesn't care about you. They've never cared about you, Tim. They've always been this cynical. About war, about unemployment, about people's businesses. They've never cared. They pretend to care. And the Republicans pretend to care too. But at the end of the day, most of these people don't care. You're just a pawn in a game. That's why I say that the DNC has signed a political suicide pact. They've come up with this strategy. Every member of the DNC, just about, is on board with it. And that's why all these governors are driving their states into a ditch. That's why Ted Wheeler, he thinks he's going to be rewarded by doing what he's doing. He thinks Biden's going to bail him out. If he doesn't get reelected as mayor of Antifa City, otherwise known as Portland, he thinks he'll get, some ambassadorship or, and then he'll come back in 8 years and run for Senate in Oregon. And he'll probably win. But if Biden loses this and Trump goes another 4 years, it's the end of the Democratic Party. The last holdout will be Portland Mayor, and it'll be Mayor Antifa, not Mayor Ted Wheeler. It'll be that woman who's running against him, most likely. Maybe Bill de Blasio. Phil Murphy's not up until next year, and a handful of other states. But the Democrats are going by way of the dodo, and they know it. This isn't personal. This is their survival. And this is what they'll do, because they all have golden parachutes, Tim. None of their money's in danger. They're not going to have to pay for any of this. We are. They have enough money to pay taxes all day long. They don't care. What do they care? If this gamble completely fails and the Democratic Party is no more, they'll go on to write books, and their friends in publishing and media will give them movies and TV shows, and they'll get to go on The View and make money, and they're already millionaires anyway. So, I'm glad you're sort of red-pilled, but, you really got to get on board with the idea that government never cared about you. And they never will. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents. Right, Joan? Say bye-bye.